The Bear might initially appear as a show about cooking and the intense pressure of running a restaurant. But beneath that surface beats a poignant story of trauma, a desperate attempt to reconcile with the past, and a struggle to tame inner chaos. Carmi's relentless pursuit of control and perfection is more than just a brilliant chef's culinary ambition. It's a desperate escape from the lingering grip of trauma. Hi, it's Captain Spoiler here, overthinking pop culture, and we're about to dive deep into spoiler territory, so consider yourself warned. When we first step into the chaotic kitchen of the sandwich shop, Carmi Berzatto seems utterly out of place. This gifted chef, who built a career in the world's most acclaimed restaurants, suddenly finds himself in a grimy beef joint where nothing seems to function. We witness Carmi repeatedly clash with reality, struggling to manage a motley crew and impose order on a place devoid of the precise structures and procedures he knew from Michelin-starred kitchens. At first glance, Carmi appears to be a genius trapped in mediocrity. His explosive temper and aggressive outbursts hint at the immense frustration simmering within him. However, we quickly realize that Carmi's presence here isn't a coincidence. It's not simply about honoring his deceased brother's memory by trying to salvage a crumbling business. The family restaurant becomes an unconventional form of therapy for Carmen, a way to process trauma. This trauma stems not only from his brother's sudden death, but also from growing up in a deeply dysfunctional family marked by addiction and mental illness. The perfectionism that once propelled Carmi to work under the world's best chefs and now compels him to control the chaos of a rundown sandwich shop at all costs is, in fact, a defense mechanism. It's his way of trying to impose order on his own life and emotions. As a result, The Bear quickly moves beyond a mere show about stressful kitchen work to become a profound examination of trauma and the lasting impact of family on a character's psyche.
I don't think my family meant to ruin it or anything like that. I don't think they did it on purpose, but I think sometimes they try too hard.
A pivotal moment that explains why Carmen and his siblings are the way they are comes in the second season with the episode called Fishes. In this flashback, the Berzatto family and friends gather for Christmas Eve dinner. The episode, set when Mikey was still alive and Carmen was building his career in New York restaurants, concisely reveals what these characters faced from a young age. We see everyone's palpable fear of Donna Berzatto, Carmi's mother. They walk on eggshells around her, seemingly waiting for a disaster to unfold. Donna's kitchen is pure chaos, symbolically mirroring the disarray of her and her family's entire lives. Donna goes to extreme lengths to create a perfect Christmas Eve. She haphazardly cooks several dishes simultaneously, clearly overwhelmed by the mess she's created. She sets multiple timers, but then forgets what they were for. Between checking on food, she drinks heavily. And as she does, her condition steadily deteriorates. She cycles rapidly from euphoria to anger or despair. She's mad at everyone around her, accusing them of not helping, yet simultaneously refuses any actual assistance. She throws them out of the kitchen, screams at them, says hurtful things, slams dishes, and even throws food at them. It's immediately evident that Donna's state is more than just holiday stress or the confusion of someone who's taken on too much. Her violent reactions and abrupt mood swings extend far beyond the pressures of preparing a Christmas dinner. Her behavior is unpredictable and volatile. Donna appears highly emotionally unstable. We can suspect she's struggling with a mental disorder. The fact that her behavior isn't surprising to those around her, rather, it's an expected norm, suggests these difficulties have plagued Donna her entire life. It's highly probable that Donna has an undiagnosed and untreated mental illness, or perhaps borderline personality disorder. This condition is characterized by rapid mood swings, immense difficulty regulating emotions, chaotic behavior, and a tendency to swing between extremes in relationships, rapidly shifting from idealizing others to demeaning them. Like many individuals with borderline personality disorder, Donna attempts to cope by self-medicating with alcohol, likely hoping it will suppress her emotions and numb her self-loathing. But this only exacerbates the problem. Alcohol doesn't solve issues, it creates new ones, leading to addiction and making a drunken Donna lose control even more easily. The chaos Donna unleashes during Christmas Eve profoundly impacts those around her. We see her children and friends trying to manage her emotions, trying to soothe her, assuring her that everything is fine and that she is loved. Donna's children adopt different strategies to cope with their mother's behavior. Carmen tends to avoid her, staying out of her way to prevent conflict. Natalie feels a constant need to check on her mother's feelings and actively tries to connect with her and calm her. Mikey, on the other hand, tries to distract everyone in various ways, even provoking other conflicts just to redirect everyone's attention and anger onto himself. The Berzatto siblings' behavior during Christmas Eve tells us a great deal about how they each attempted to navigate growing up with such an unstable and alcohol-dependent mother. Each struggles with various difficulties in their lives, direct consequences of being raised in a home that was not a safe haven. On the contrary, it became a source of fear, chaos, and unpredictability. Donna's emotional instability and her inconsistent treatment of her children forced Carmen, Natalie, and Mike to be constantly vigilant, continuously adapting to their mother's changing moods and developing distinct survival strategies within this hostile environment.
Really want one of these bullshit stars?
Yeah. Yeah, I really do.
You're gonna have to care about everything. More than anything.
For Carmi, the response to his chaotic childhood was twofold: an escape from it and a relentless pursuit of perfectionism. Carmen chooses a culinary career, aspiring to work for the world's finest restaurants, which allows him to leave home and physically distance himself from his difficult mother. His interest in elegant restaurants, where every detail matters and perfection is demanded, is no coincidence. Growing up in an unpredictable environment like the Berzatto home strips you of a sense of control. Many people cope by finding a small area where they can regain that control, thereby reducing their anxiety and feelings of helplessness. For Carmen, that area became cooking and his immersion in fine dining, where every millimeter on the plate and every second of preparation hold immense significance. Continuously improving his skills and meticulously overseeing every detail of his dishes allow Carmi to find order in a chaotic world and reclaim a sense of agency. Working in high-end restaurants, though often stressful and intensely pressured, paradoxically helps him reduce anxiety and uncertainty, providing his life with rigid structure and order. Cooking becomes his escape from family chaos. Carmen's decision to become a chef and his perfectionism in that role speak volumes about his underlying need to fix what was broken in his family home. As the Berzatto family's Christmas Eve scenes illustrate, food is a significant element of their family traditions, and shared meals at the table somehow bind this dysfunctional family together. Yet, food is also a flashpoint, often leading to conflict and chaotic messes. Carmi's mother seems obsessed with preparing food for the family, but her methods and the atmosphere she creates in the kitchen are destructive. It's no surprise that cooking becomes important to Carmen too, but he wants to do it entirely differently than Donna. He wants to control it, to gain mastery over it, to do it in an organized hierarchical environment with defined, rigid rules where everyone has a specific role to play. This gives him a sense of security he never experienced at home, where all three children, from an early age, felt responsible in one way or another for their mother's volatile mood swings, and where the lines between child and parent blurred. Carmen, in a sense, wants to fix his childhood experiences, symbolically rewriting them. He focuses on creating perfect, beautiful dishes where everything harmonizes. He aims to transform the chaos, mess, dirt, and excess characteristic of Donna's kitchen into the order, clarity, and creative restraint of a perfectly planned tasting menu. Carmen's decision to take over the family sandwich joint after his brother's death stems from similar motivations. Initially, Carmi finds the restaurant in complete chaos, mirroring the Berzatto family's dysfunction. Nothing works correctly, the business is deeply in debt, employees lack clear tasks, and the food preparation and serving process is so disorganized, it's a wonder anything sells. In Carmi's mind, the family and the joint merge into one, and behind his desperate attempts to bring order to the restaurant lies a deeper need to gain control over his family relationships. Carmi tries to symbolically fix his family by saving the sandwich shop and then transforming it into an upscale restaurant. Carmi's perfectionism, however, casts a long shadow. His intense focus on his culinary career and later on bringing order to the family restaurant leaves absolutely no room for anything else. For a long time, Carmen maintains no relationships outside of work. Even with his restaurant colleagues, interactions are almost exclusively professional. He actively sidesteps social gatherings. While there are moments in the restaurant when both Carmen and his coworkers open up emotionally, Carmi either can't or won't cross that line, refusing to shift his relationships with new acquaintances into a personal sphere. When he accidentally runs into an old friend, he gives her a fake phone number, as if preemptively rejecting the very possibility of a romantic connection. Carmen is so consumed by work and the relentless pursuit of perfection that he simply cannot make space for anything else in his life. He'd prefer to treat the people at the restaurant, including his own sister and cousin, somewhat instrumentally, focusing solely on business matters. It's incredibly difficult for him to open up to others. He has to consciously remind himself to make an effort, to show interest in his loved ones and how they're feeling. Carmy's perfectionism, once a defense mechanism meant to shield him from Donna's chaos, has solidified into a wall, separating him from other people and making it incredibly difficult to connect. Carmen isn't wired to seek support from others for anything beyond professional concerns, likely because his mentors and renowned chefs were the first people with whom he experienced stability and from whom he could learn something positive. Because of this, Carmen views other people and social interactions almost as obstacles on his path to his professional goals, and he tries to avoid them. Or perhaps he's a little afraid of them because close emotional connections remind him of pain and entanglement. The depth of Carmen's inability to reconcile these two parts of his life becomes glaringly clear in his relationship with Claire. When he finally decides to take a risk, to open up to someone and starts dating this wonderful woman, it seems he can be happy and feel secure, but only until the first crisis hits the restaurant. The moment something goes wrong at work, Carmen instantly blames his relationship with Claire for diverting his attention from what truly matters. He chastises himself for not being focused enough, for failing to oversee every detail, and he inflates a relatively minor setback into a full-blown tragedy. This single misstep causes Carmen to retreat, once again cutting himself off from others. He sees it as confirmation of his deeply held belief that close relationships inevitably lead to chaos and disaster. He convinces himself that if he wants to be a perfect chef at a perfect restaurant, he simply cannot afford a private life that would only distract him. What initially protected him from the effects of family trauma gradually transforms into a cage, trapping Carmen and isolating him. We can only hope that the relationships he has managed to build with his restaurant staff will gradually help him to finally open up to others and process his fear of intimacy.
My brother and I, we would cook a lot together, especially when we were kids. You know, that's when we were closest. Food was always our common ground.
Mikey's suicide provides an additional catalyst for Carmen to symbolically process his family trauma. Carmen, like his sister and friends, grapples with immense guilt. He blames himself for not being there for Mikey when he was needed, for failing to support him, and for not even recognizing his brother's profound suffering. Mikey's sudden death casts a long shadow over everyone working in the restaurant. But for Carmy, it fuels his desire to symbolically rectify an unfixable past. Grief and guilt compel Carmen to desperately save his brother's restaurant from collapse, both to honor Mikey's memory and perhaps to keep a part of him close. While Carmy is overwhelmed by guilt, he also harbors significant resentment toward his brother for pushing him away and previously excluding him from the family restaurant. He doesn't realize that Mikey, in his own way, was trying to protect him, to give him a chance to break free from the dysfunctional system and build a better life. Mikey didn't want Carmen to get stuck, as he had in constant proximity to their mother and all her chaos. The show allows us to understand Mikey more intimately through flashbacks, especially the Christmas Eve episode. We see Mikey, who, despite his own struggles with addiction, tries to protect his younger siblings and offer them a different path. Mikey himself plays the role of the family scapegoat, sacrificing himself for the good of others. He never managed to escape his family home or his mother's influence. He didn't start his own family, continued to live with his mother, and took over the family business, almost as if he was bearing the entire weight of the family's dysfunction so Carmen and Natalie wouldn't have to. Simultaneously, Mikey suffered immense consequences. He became deeply entangled in the dysfunctional system, codependent, and addicted to medication. He likely also struggled with a sense of failure and was certainly perceived by others as a bit of a loser, someone who couldn't get anything right in life, who still lived with his mom and couldn't even run a sandwich shop properly. Yet, Mikey was also a deeply charismatic person who, at least when he wasn't battling his demons, connected wonderfully with others and tried to help them. It's no wonder that, to the best of his ability, he tried to protect his younger siblings. And although he ultimately couldn't overcome his own difficulties and gave up, it's profoundly ironic that his death, paradoxically, opened the door for Carmy to begin processing family trauma, mending relationships with loved ones, and regaining control over his life.
You know, you don't realize this is a delicate ecosystem. And it's held together by a shared history and love and respect.
While Carmen's experiences led him to pursue perfectionism, other characters around him cope with Donna's legacy and Mikey's death, each in their own way. Natalie, Carmi's sister, unconsciously embraced the role of caregiver. It's likely that from an early age, her method of reducing uncertainty in her relationship with her mother was to care for her and try to calm her. We repeatedly see Natalie trying to diffuse her mother's moods, but also her profound need to constantly check on her mother's feelings and well-being. Paradoxically, this often creates conflicts, but it's an urge she can't resist. Her way of coping with chaos and trauma involves caring for others. Natalie becomes the restaurant's quiet force, a mediator in the many conflicts between Carmen and the rest of the staff. It is her efforts that hold the family together. Where Carmi tries to control his environment and impose structure, Natalie tries to bring order by nurturing and softening social relationships. However, much like Carmen, Natalie also pays a significant price for her coping mechanisms. Years of prioritizing her mother's moods and needs have molded Natalie into a people pleaser. She constantly strives to satisfy others, often at the expense of her own emotions and well-being. Being the adult, the reasonable, and the caring one drains an immense amount of energy, especially when others don't fully reciprocate her concern, merely taking without giving back. Natalie struggles with setting boundaries and voicing her own opinions, particularly with her mother. She's so attuned to others that she sometimes forgets to prioritize herself. Her main challenge lies in learning to establish healthy boundaries and setting priorities that ensure she doesn't neglect her own needs. While Donna's children each try to escape the chaos or find a way to somehow control it, other characters seem to need more time to realize how destructive it can be. Richie, Carmen, and Natalie's honorary cousin, is a prime example. Initially, he seems to thrive in chaos and even works to perpetuate it. We know little about Richie's family home, but we can assume it wasn't easy, given that Richie found his refuge in Donna Berzato's unpredictable household. Perhaps for him it felt like freedom and fun compared to strict rules his military father tried to impose on him. Despite not being blood-related, Richie became deeply ingrained in the family. For him, the chaos, shouting, and unpredictability became comforting reminders of loved ones like Mikey and Donna. Richie remains trapped in the past for a long time, stubbornly refusing to try and change things for the better. For him, stability means maintaining the familiar. This is why he struggles so much to recover from his failed marriage and why he so strongly resists attempts to change the restaurant. His loyalty to Mikey long delays his confrontation with reality. Only gradually, towards the end of the second season, do we see Richie begin to change. He starts to understand how destructive it is to cling to the past, and he tentatively begins to bring order to both the restaurant and his own life. However, mastering this chaos is far from easy. Carmen, Natalie, Richie, and the rest constantly struggle. Even when they start making progress on their emotional journeys toward healing, many things still pull them down, and many dysfunctional mechanisms carried over from home continue to dominate their interactions. A perfect example is how the restaurant staff communicates. They constantly yell at each other, point out mistakes, and avoid difficult topics or emotional conversations. The most intense of these tensions occur between Carmen, Richie, and Natalie, the individuals most directly affected by Mikey's death and Donna Berzato's destructive influence. Despite their desire for improvement and the breakthroughs they experience personally and in their relationships, all three still occasionally revert to their old habits and protective mechanisms, which often clash. This perfectly illustrates that the healing process takes time, isn't linear, and progresses in small steps. Nevertheless, The Bear offers a beacon of hope, demonstrating that change is possible even if it's difficult and time-consuming. The new restaurant symbolizes an attempt to create a new order and shed destructive habits, allowing them to rebuild everything important from the ground up. In this new kitchen, Carmi and his loved ones have a chance to gradually work towards healing, processing trauma, and mending their relationships. The crucial condition, however, is that Carmen learns to use his perfectionism as a tool rather than letting it overwhelm him and control his interactions with others. He needs to learn that while his defense mechanisms may have been useful in his career and his quest for stability, he shouldn't allow the pursuit of perfection to become another trap from which he can't escape. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and check this awesome video next.